So I just got done playing the new game Millennia. That is the Paradox published 4X historical strategy game, pretty much like the Civilization 6 franchise, Civilization Sid Meier's franchise. And it just made me kind of start thinking about the future of strategy games here. That video is coming out on my gaming channel very soon. Spoiler alert, wasn't really much of a fan. And so it really just put a lot of things into perspective for me. When I think of strategy games, first of all, I've been doing strategy games for ever. I mean, we're coming on 11 years now. I cannot believe that, but I've been playing strategy games for 11 years. And and when I think of strategy games, I really think of three major franchises. That is Civilization, the Civilization franchise, the Total War franchise, and then pretty much anything that Paradox makes, grand strategies sort of games. I mean, those are the three big ones. Obviously, Paradox has like a lot of things in there. Total War has like they've got their historical branch of Total War games, and then their more fantasy branch, and then Civilization, produced by Firaxis. It's mostly just Civilization, and then they have like XCOM, the other part of Firaxis does a whole bunch of things. I mean, it's just so interesting because I just reviewed, in a video the other day, I was reviewing memes, and I feel like every month or so we have memes about these, basically people playing like 15-year-old strategy games. And for instance, Rome Total War 2. I mean, that's still a really big strategy game. Civ 6 came out in 2016. Hearts of Iron 4, a very big game for my channel. That came out in 2016 as well. So it's funny to see. I mean, that's 8 years ago. The future is just kind of strange. It's hard for me to predict what is going to happen on my gaming channel. First of all, I want to say I think that there's some interesting things for sure happening when it comes to more indie developers. All those three franchises I mentioned are big. Those are like the biggest you can get. There are more strategy games out there, but when I think of strategy, it's those main three. One thing that's been very exciting as of the last like couple years, like 2 or 3 years, is how indie some of the strategy games have gotten. I feel like, my channel, Drew, is pretty much an exact mirror of that. Like seeing so many strategy games get made by like, honestly, it's got to be one dude or maybe a team of 2, 3, definitely like under 5. Those are some of the strategy games that I'm playing most right now. I'm having a lot of fun with that. I don't know if it's just their ability to bring out updates, or the passion is obviously super there. Maybe there's less office politics that go behind some of the changes, but I've been really enjoying that. So that's one bright side. I just wanted to bring in some good things to the genre because I feel like strategy will always somewhat be there as a genre of video game. I mean, I will always play strategy. That's always been my favorite type of genre to play, and it's always going to be my favorite type of genre to play. But it's still a little bit, I feel like it's always scary. I think people always worry that strategy is going to fall off. I mean, look at RTS games. RTS games are still very popular, but they obviously aren't at the popularity they used to be. They're still somewhat there, but people thought that I am totally blanking on the name right now. Age of Empires, when that came out, that was going to kind of bring back that sort of thing. You have like Command & Conquer. I played a little bit of Northgard. Again, these games are old, and I think it's interesting because strategy games are maybe the only genre in all of gaming that you need years. Like, you honestly need years for it to develop. And you don't even know what is going to be that impactful cultural strategy game shift. Look at Rome Total War 2. I just brought that example up. That game came out to some pretty negative reviews. Like, people weren't very excited about it. It was just the constant updates, the constant time, the DLC. Same story goes for Hearts of Iron 4, I feel. Every Paradox game, like any time a strategy game gets released on day one, it's always going to probably get bad reviews. Now, that's just like permanently what's going to happen because we have so much more to compare it to. We have like literally strategy games that have been being developed for almost 10 years now. They're always going to be behind. The newest update will always be behind. It's like the only genre that it takes like 10 years to catch up. It might be 2024 now, but the best strategy games were released back in 2016. So like, it's going to take 5, 6, 7 years for whenever Civilization 7 comes out, whenever people are talking about EU5 possibly getting released at some point. That seems like it's been pretty much confirmed. It's going to take a long time. So I somewhat... I don't really worry about the genre because I was there when Civ 6 got released and it came out to like all not that great of reviews. I was there when I remember reading, Hearts of Iron 3 is so much better than Hearts of Iron 4, even though very quickly I figured that was not going to be the case for a very long time. I think it all depends on like a certain shift that needs to happen. Look at like Prison Architect. I mean, that's a simulation game, but what they're doing with simulation, Prison Architect 2, I haven't played Prison Architect 2, but I'm just saying like that's just like been in my mind. That sort of shift where it's like it went from like a top-down sort of game to like a 3D sort of game. You can't always do that with the historical or grand strategy games that we're talking about, but if there's a little shift like that, usually that can help set it over the edge. But I definitely worry because I feel like no matter how much I've hammered that point home, that like day one strategy games are just not gonna be good. People still forget that. They still are not listening, and I'm gonna just continue to try to hammer home that point. But this is what my prediction is, and I'll be honest. I'm gonna start with the company and the franchise that I'm most worried about. I'm most worried about Total War. I'll be honest. Like CA seems to have they've been in chaos for a while, and I've been working. It's funny, like I was never a big Total War player on my channel. I played Total War on my free time outside of videos, and I was invited to many like Total War events. I've met a lot of the team. This was years ago though, so I don't know who's still there, to be honest. But I'm definitely most concerned about Total War. I have to be honest, I'm not a big fantasy strategy game player. That's not always the case, but that is usually the case. So I was never into the Warhammer series, even though everyone has really, pretty good positive things to say about that. The historical branch of the Total War series seems to be really in trouble. Paradox, just to move on to some company that I feel like a little bit more. Paradox worries me a bit. Obviously they had their fumble with Imperator Rome, and that was something that I called wrong. I'll be honest. I thought that game was going to do a lot better than it did. I heard that they had released a big update, a 2.0 update basically, and then obviously that didn't pull up the numbers, and people just they pretty much stopped developing it. But that might be a theme thing. Like I don't know. It's hard to say, but maybe it's a theme thing. Maybe people don't want to play Rome, strategy games about Rome if it's not a like a real time sort of thing. Like maybe just the grand strategy that Paradox makes doesn't work for the Rome timeline. I will be honest, even I had difficulties getting into that game, like being excited about that game. It just wasn't that interesting to me versus something like Hearts of Iron 4. I mean, that's a really, at my heart, I think I'm still a history normie in a way because I still love World War II. People are going to have a very easy time getting into that. But yeah, for Paradox, they're going to probably release Europa Universalis 5, and it's going to get mixed reviews, maybe even mostly negative reviews, and it's going to take them years to catch up. I think that there is an interesting... There's definitely ways to improve EU4. I mean, that game is 10 years old now. There's definitely a way to streamline it. I will admit, I like CK3 more than I liked CK2, like with the potential of it. It's still going to take some time, but I'm a firm believer that CK3 will end up evolving into being everyone's favorite Crusader Kings game. Maybe that takes another 2-3 years, but if they continue development on that, you know what I mean? I haven't looked at the Steam numbers when it comes to that, but I think that, it has enough of those tweaks where it's going to be hard for people to go back to CK2 that don't just like to look at spreadsheets. You know what I mean? There's always going to be that fan base that in the strategy community where they just love the spreadsheet sort of game appeal. And I get that. That's appealing sometimes, but obviously CK3 has a bit more visuals going on for it. So I think I'm pretty confident that'll eventually be the gold standard for the Crusader Kings franchise. But yeah, I mean, EU4, EU5 is going to have something, but it's going to take some years. And then to move on to Firaxis, I mean, Firaxis is weird. I know people don't like Paradox for their DLC strategies because they release, I mean, I think they've gotten better. Does anyone remember when, like, in 2015, 2016, they were releasing, like, 4 DLCs a year for, like, EU4? Well, I'm not a fan of that. I think they do just once a year now for each of their game franchises. I don't know why. Firaxis worries me. They're weird. They're real weird with the way that they release their games, because they'll release a Civ series, their base game, Civ 5, Civ 6, and then they'll release like 2 expansions, and then they're done. With Civ 6, they did like a little bit. They released like some leader updates, but it came out to some really bad reception. People didn't really care about that. I mean, they did their 2 big expansions, and then they did like really minor, new Civs, new Civ leaders. It didn't, nobody was really excited about that. I would rather Firaxis, I've always wanted Firaxis just to go with the Paradox strategy in a way. They don't got to do 4 DLCs a year, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that because of, if you look at the Steam page, how much DLC, Hearts of Iron 4 has, EU4 has. But if you could give us like a DLC every year, that would be cool. I mean, they don't even do that. Usually it comes out the base game releases, and then 2 years it takes for the first DLC for that Civ game to get released. And then the following year, maybe 18 months later, they'll release a second DLC, and then bam, they're kind of done. Can they not do that? Can we get like DLCs every year possibly? I mean, that's just my personal take on it. I know they do updates, and the updates tend to bring in a little bit more, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to really depend. I worry a lot about all of the strategy games, the in-depth ones, you know what I mean? I think that there's always going to be really cool indie devs that are popping out that are really going to push the genre forward. And that's what's exciting about the future, is the indie guys, the games that were literally developed by like one dude. Those people are exciting because I think they are going to be the ones, one of them's going to pop off and bring a whole new breath of fresh air, I think, because I think that there definitely could be a breath of fresh air, especially in the historical genre. I have to admit the strategy game that I'd probably most be interested in looking at into the future would be whenever Hearts of Iron 5 comes out. So that would definitely be after EU5 drops. It's probably the timeline would be EU5 and then Hearts of Iron 5. And again, we have to wait another 3 to 4 to 5 years for that to be a functional, good game. But I'm very curious what Hearts of Iron 5 would look like one day, and we'll see. But what are your thoughts about future of this genre? Obviously, I've taken my strategy sort of channel in a different way, and I'm enjoying that aspect of it. So I never thought I'd be able to make, kind of videos focus on, even Roblox strategy games I've been playing. So it's kind of funny how that works. But anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. See you next time.